What's going on? Your boy Marvin back in the building. Got a nice cup of the grape juice. Not wine, it's actual grape juice. Some good old antioxidant action going on here. Cheers. So yeah, what we got going on in this video today, I wanted to talk to you guys about two things: population control, and one of the new laws being, it's been announced back in April, so it's not new, but one of the laws about supplements. I just wanted to mention those two things because those have been conversations that I've been having over the past couple of weeks with people. So I figure if the conversation is there, give a little bit of chat about it, and then you guys can put in the comments and stuff what you think, and then perhaps meet me on the next live stream and we could talk about these things. So on the screen right now, you guys can see Thomas Malthus, and I already have the Malthusian theory up there on the screen. We'll read real quick. The Malthusian theory explained that the human population grows more rapidly than the food supply until famines, war, or disease reduces the population. Famines being people dying of hunger, lack of the ability to get food because, for whatever reason, the food's just not available. So, but where have I heard that from before? I'll play a little clip for you guys.
Titan was like most planets. Too many mouths, not enough to go around.
So that was from the movie Marvel's Infinity War. And then, of course, there's a second part, Marvel's Endgame. Now, I wouldn't call it spoilers so much, but if you guys don't want any spoilers, you still somehow haven't seen it, then yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about those two movies, or at least a concept of those two movies. And Thomas Malthus, the theory is about how the nature kind of self-corrects, right? So what happens is you keep constantly growing the population. There's only a certain amount of resources around, and eventually you get too many people, they start gobbling up those resources faster than they can be replenished. So it's going to naturally cause famines. The people who can't get to the food will die off. War, people fighting over resources and food. Or disease, when you have a large population of people in a small area, you tend to pass on viruses and diseases and stuff much faster because the people are so close and the stuff is like around them that things don't necessarily get away from them. You can't exactly run away because there's nowhere to go. It's too crowded, right? Kind of thing, right? Now we're talking about an extreme circumstance, but hey, this is what the conversation is about, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to move on and show you another quote from THANOS in Marvel's Infinity War. And this is very important because his conviction in the movie had people saying that he was not an antagonist, meaning he wasn't necessarily an enemy. He was actually more like a second protagonist, anti-hero maybe, something like that. But he was so convicted, really close to what the Malthusian theory says. Let's move on to the next one, right? This is a quote that he actually made in the movie. It's simple calculus. The universe is finite. Its resources are finite. If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist. It needs correction. So the issue I have in the statement is authoritative figure, right? It needs correction. I'll be the one to do it. Doesn't believe in anyone else to do it. Now, ancient sciences, especially of ancient Africa, along the Nile River, Sumerian, all that stuff like that, we were heavily about balance. And balance and wisdom is supposed to be within every human being. So your ability to know what's going on and how to keep things in balance. If I work too much, I eventually need some sleep. Too much sleep, eventually I need to work. Because things around me kind of have a requirement or a necessity for me to be able to do so. So some, but never too much, right? So is there a truth in the theory? I mean, if you listen to it outright and you just, you really think about it, yeah, there's a truth to it. If this PlayStation controller, if there were only 2 in the world, but there's 100 people in the world and everybody needs one, well, so what's going to happen? Somebody going to grab it and everyone else just going to lay off? That's an option, take the death if it's a requirement, right? But you get the point, right? It's resources versus amount of people. Now, what we've been hearing lately is there's negative birth rate. So it's kind of hard to look at it from the perspective of looking to have to do this when the birth rate is now negative. But you can see in this chart here how the numbers kind of have skyrocketed over the time. So they're showing from like 10,000 BCE, you're in that 1 billion people category, and then you suddenly get this sharp spike upward when you get around the 2000s, or in the 1900s into the 2000s, right? Early 1900s into 2000s. We get this sharp spike up to 8 billion people. So, of course, there's going to be all kinds of conspiracy theories on how the population will go down. The Malthusian theory tells you the natural one, which is too many resources, war, famine, disease. I don't want to get into the conspiracy theory so much on this video in terms of, because it does come across with some people having an agenda to try and get the population down, but the agenda is a mixed feeling, right? You have people who tend to look at Bill Gates because he made the commentary on getting healthcare and vaccines around the world will reduce the population. And people will read that different ways, because we know there can be disingenuous people within the scientific and medical community. We read that as somebody trying to control the population using science, meaning they get to determine who gets to have children, or maybe we inject people with something and that causes them to not be able to have children, or it kills them off, whatever it is. But his perspective is one that I heard a long time ago. I'm not going to answer whether it's true or not. I'm just going to say what he said. His original point of view was what he said. He had originally had the wrong point of view about Africa. Yes, his whole thing was going after Africa. That's kind of weird to me, just looking at Africa. But he said when he went to Africa, I think this was late 1990s into the 2000s, his actual perspective was when he says he spoke to African families, they said that they had multiple children because famine, lack of resources tended to be the reason that they died. So the families felt if they had more children, there was a greater chance that one or two would survive. So that's why they were having so many children. Don't know if I believe that or not. Up front, I don't necessarily believe that, because of African culture. It's a be fruitful and multiply kind of thing. They kind of look forward to you having multiple children. So I don't see it as being we're hoping they survive kind of thing, versus the famine and disease. I think that with the history that we know about, Africa is corrupted. Like, people came in, stole the resources, and when you take the resources from the people and then their culture falls apart because of wars and stuff, well, you kind of get what you see. Someone else is controlling a portion of their destiny, which causes these problems. So don't know if I believe so much in what he said, but that's his true explanation on why he wants to boost vaccines, especially in places like Africa, because he believes that if the health is better, they'll have less children because the children won't be dying because of famine and disease and all that stuff like that. That's what he said his point of view was. So, put in the comment section how you feel, what you think, and all that stuff like that, right? What else we got here? The Agenda 2030. A lot of people, when they hear Agenda 2030, they're like, oh, the agenda, like the conspiracy theory. No, it's an actual agenda. Look, Sustainable Development Goals. You can see it kind of down there on the corner of the slides that I have right here behind me. Sustainable goals. And I singled out, for the sake of conversation, a couple of parts in this. And that would be the no poverty, right? No poverty. But of course, you got to ask yourself, you got to go to the website, right? No poverty? How? No poverty, right? What else we got? Zero hunger. Zero hunger. We said that earlier, right? Famine could be an issue. So they don't want people to be hungry. How do you control that? Number 3, this kind of brings the two sides together. Sustainable cities and communities. Sustainable usually have to do with the ability to recycle. Not allow something to be too much or allow something to be too little. That kind of already goes on now in the economy, especially in if you guys don't know, in healthcare, they kind of do that. They have committees that meet. It's the reason why you can have changes on things like why is Tylenol good one minute and then the next minute it sounds like they're saying, chill on it. Same with coffee. And then you'll have how come now as an elder, my blood pressure can be 130/90 and then next thing you know, it's 120/80. And then you might see somebody mess with that, it'll be 175/75. You can change the number based on demand and supply. And there are committees that actually do this, but they still have parameters. They still try and remain within, a certain border, So it's all about law of percentages and averages when it comes to the scientific community on how they do things. So the same way I have a respect for nature, I try to respect and understand the point of view of the scientific community and their will to go about, messing with things to the point of full understanding. We do that as children, kick rocks, pick things up and eat them and do stuff like that. This is just what you get when that turns into generations later, wisdom, knowledge, and a whole lot of, extra things to consider. But I just think that they get really dangerous and people do hurtful things on purpose when they know it's not good. Like the moment chemical dumping started happening in natural water sources, you're getting beyond the limits of humanity at that point. And this is the clash that we have within humanity. We're not always making the choice to protect the environment while we try and advance what we got going on. We tend to lose our spiritual touch, and our connection with the environment and the universe at large, so to speak. We kind of look forward that way, right? So yes, there you have it. That's the Malthusian theory. And I threw a little bit of THANOS from the Marvel Cinematic Universe on top because that's the point that was kind of being explained there, except THANOS had his way of trying to control that destiny. Bill Gates has his way of trying to control that destiny and the reasons to go about it. So I would hope if you guys are out there considering the argument, the points that are being made about population control, I hope you're looking at it from both sides with a balance, right? Because that's what the concept is about, with a balance. People who tend to be too hardcore to one side without the proper information or backup to justify said side, it just keeps us divided. We don't really get to go anywhere because we're not hearing the other side of the conversation. And that's kind of what this is about. So now with that being said, let's see what else we got here. Switch on over to our to the internets, right? We have an article here on S4090. Again, this is back in April, so this is not new, but I'm going to read off to you what S4090 is, with the 117th Congress trying to bring in with legislation. Let's scroll on down here. So it says this bill imposes various requirements on dietary supplements, including by requiring the person, an individual or entity, right? You own a business entity, responsible for introducing a supplement into interstate commerce to register the supplement with the Food and Drug Administration, aka the FDA. Under this bill, the responsible person must register with the FDA specified information about each dietary supplement to be offered for sale, including a list of all ingredients required by regulation to appear on the label. So your ingredients have to be included on the label. The conditions of the use of the actual supplement, take this certain amount of times a day or at this time or whatever, right? And any warnings or precautions, taking this over a certain amount might cause vomiting, diarrhea, and all that stuff like that, right? The stuff they rush through on some of the commercials. Certain claims characterizing the relationship between certain nutrients in the supplement and a disease or a health-related condition. All right. So you say vitamin B. This is a vitamin B complex, and it has been known to help the blood. So you have to have information that substantiate the nutrients and the connection to it. So, for instance, folate, B12, and iron. So those three are necessary to have a mature red blood cell in this, small, with a quick explanation, right? So the folate and the B12 is based on the size of the red blood cell. So they're going to help you get the correct size, because if you have, like, let's say a large red blood cell, your spleen is like, when you start bleeding too bad or you have a disease and you start to have loss of blood, your spleen will so-called send in the troops, right? It has a backup of white and red blood cells, and it will help new red blood cells go into your bloodstream in order to help you out because you're losing too much blood. Well, if the red blood cells are too big, then they can't get through the little capillaries and venules and stuff, the venous system, to kind of get into your system, because they're so large, they try and move and they get jammed up in there. And then you wind up with spleen issues, and that could be bad if your spleen ruptures. So they have things like a spleenectomy where they take your spleen out, because that might happen. So you want to have mature and correctly sized red blood cells. And then, of course, there's the iron issue. So you might have supplements for iron, B12, and certain B vitamins that have to do with energy and the ability to have mature red blood cells, which can equal proper oxygen supply to the body, things like that. So you want to substantiate your claims, right? The responsible person's contact information, you're the person, so you give them the contact info, and the locations where the supplement is manufactured, packaged, labeled, or held. When I did a research on that, people were kind of mad at that. They felt like the whole purpose of this, these are things that are already done. So now it's adding more detail, and it doesn't exactly curb the problems that are going on with misinformation with supplements in the society. People making very bad quality supplements and backing it with medical data, and then people not getting the result. And in some cases, people getting hurt because things are labeled wrong. Apparently that already exists. So the issue with this is just redundant, unnecessary paperwork. So in advance, if you're going to bring something new to market, or you have things already in market, or you plan on putting something in the market after you introduce it to the market. So you come up with a vitamin C supplement, right? And you give them all the data that I just stated. You have to be able to somehow project into the future the places it'll be sold and supply the information about said location and place. So if your vitamin C is, you're like, yeah, when I first release, I'm going to put it in 5 stores in Pennsylvania. But then later on, you know what? I'm thinking about putting it in this store over in California. You got to know that information in advance is what I'm hearing. Like, you have to be able to tell them all that info in advance. So it's more of it's a pain in the, it's a pain in the ass. That's pretty much what they're saying. All the extra paperwork. Now, getting closer to the part everyone wants to know about. Let us define what a dietary supplement is. Congress defined the term dietary supplement in the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, or DSHEA, of 1994. Is a product intended for ingestion, eating, among other requirements, contains a dietary ingredient intended to supplement the diet. The term dietary ingredient includes vitamins and minerals, herbs and other botanicals or amino acids, and then dietary substances that are part of the food supply, such as enzymes and live microbials, commonly referred to as probiotics, and concentrates, metabolites, constituents, extracts, or combinations of any dietary ingredient from the preceding categories. Dietary supplements may be found in many forms, such as pills, tablets, capsules, gummies, soft gels, liquids, and powders. They can also be in the same form as a conventional food category, such as teas or bars, but only if the product is not represented as a conventional food or as a sole item of a meal or diet. To be a dietary supplement, a product must also be labeled as a dietary supplement. That is, the product label must include the term dietary supplement or equivalent, e.g. iron supplement or herbal supplement. The DSHEA places dietary supplements in a special category under the general umbrella of foods, unless the product meets the definition of a drug because it is labeled to treat or mitigate a disease. All right. So, what is a new dietary ingredient in a dietary supplement? So, DSHEA of 1994 defined the terms dietary ingredient and new dietary ingredient to be a dietary ingredient. An ingredient in a dietary supplement must be one of the following: a vitamin, a mineral, an herb or other botanical, an amino acid, a dietary substance for use by man to supplement the diet by increasing the total dietary intake, or a concentrate, metabolite, constituent, extract, or combination of any dietary ingredient from the other categories listed above. Okay, I won't read any further, but there's your customary definition of supplements, and we're going to dig even deeper. Let's move on to the next part that you guys might be curious about, probably thinking to yourself, can we just get to the point? What is it, right? Well, the answer to that is nope. We got a detail. The FDA and herbal supplements. The FDA considers herbal supplements to be foods, not medicines. So these products don't get the same testing, manufacturing, and labeling standards and regulations as medicines. Don't self-prescribe. Talk with your healthcare provider before taking any herbal supplements. So, all of that is said to be said. Herbal supplements directly out of the ground. Of course, some people dry them out. Some people make tinctures and things out of them. Those are herbs. Herbal supplements are deemed food. They don't fall under the category as dietary supplement unless you put it in that category. And I just explained to you earlier by reading off the documentation how you place yourself in that category where you could have those problems. Okay? So that pretty much answers that question. So, with that being said, another sip of the old grape juice, right? Thank you guys for checking the video out. Hey, make sure you guys like the video before you roll out. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. You know, we're trying to pump up the amount of content I could create, so support goes a long way. My Cash App is pretty much right below me right now, kind of moving down there on the screen. And then you have Marvin Health and Arts, which is my Instagram. If anything happens to my channel or Dr. Inky's channel and you're not able to kind of get in touch with us here on YouTube, my Instagram is a good backup location for you to find out what's going on. So that's why that's there. There's also other fun things like food and stuff like that that I like to post on there, and art, you know. YouTube, make sure you follow Urban Nerds Worldwide. You see the logo spinning that way, right? Above me. Follow Urban Nerds Worldwide. Got some new content coming soon. One of our children just entered a video game competition, and I was there to sponsor under Urban Nerds. He was on Twitch, he was on the stage, got a chance to play. Wasn't quite prepared, but I wanted him to get the experience. That's what Urban Nerds is about. Children need exposure. They need to see what else is out there. They need to go, see, touch, feel, taste. So they know they have the truth about what's going on, not the thought in their mind. And when they get to experience, they get to determine for themselves if things are better than they are portrayed when they either hear about it sometimes in school. Sometimes in school things are kind of a downer, like, you know, they'll tell you want to learn math because you want to be able to count change in the store. That's fine, but a child is like, that's not going to get them pumped, you know. So you want to utilize things that's going to get them pumped. And by Urban Nerds taking them into the situations and getting to experience them, they get a different viewpoint about the world and what's really out there. And this is what makes them kind of, if they've been on the streets too long in these urban neighborhoods, this kind of makes them change their tune because things are not always what they thought it was when they finally get in. So it's all about exposure. Let them make the choice. Talk to them, get them exposed. Also, you can support us. Go to urbannerdsworldwide.com. Head on over to the swag shop area. You can either make donations to Urban Nerds Worldwide through to the foundation through that channel, or you could just purchase some of the gear, some of the swag, some of the clothing, like kind of what I have on right now. Where's my yeah, let me lift up. Yeah, look at it. That Urban Nerds patch right there. Yeah, look at that right there. Hold on, what else we got? Where the boy at? Yeah. Hold up, spin it this way, see it more. Yeah, look at the Urban Nerd swag, baby. Yeah, check that stuff out over at urbannerdsworldwide.com. Again, like, subscribe. Feel free to send a Cash App if you like, because everything helps, everything supports. I look forward to sponsoring more children to go different places where they can get exposure to it as we continue to grow. So thanks for checking out the video, guys. I will catch you in the next one.